Welcome to my spoiler review for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So much to discuss. I, in fact, have numerous spoiler videos planned, so we're just getting started, baby. But where I want to start with this discussion is there's a big debate in the press that's just starting to come up, and that's whether or not Marvel movies should be accessible to the casual fan. Do they require too much homework? Because Doctor Strange 2 is a continuation of so many other MCU stories, both on the big screen and now small. But I think a lot of what undercuts Multiverse of Madness is how it actually ignores the stories that have come before it. And therefore, to the hardcore fan, which is the foundation of the MCU's success, it actually feels maddeningly unsatisfying and underwhelming because it doesn't have all those connections and it ignores, again, so much of what has come before that we were looking to see a payoff of. I mean, that's why people like the MCU, that it rewards this kind of long-term commitment. I would wager that the casual fan would actually enjoy Multiverse of Madness more because they'll just assume that everything that doesn't make sense is because they're not totally caught up. And I'm not just talking about WandaVision, by the way. I'm also talking about multiverses. In both Loki and What If, multiverses don't really look that different. What was different was the people in them, changed exponentially by the smallest of changes, either in circumstance and or choice. The ripple effect, if you will, which is, of course, a big part of, time travel and multiverse storytelling. Yet here, there was none of that pretty much. Even when we did meet wildly different versions of our favorite characters, we didn't get to learn why they were so different. Where's Jeffrey Wright's the Watcher when you need him? I love his little intros where he's like, look at the choice that was made here. And you're like, ooh, fascinating. Let's see what happens. They should have brought Jeffrey Wright in and done little intros to each of the multiverses, quite frankly. I mean, you have the tools. Use them. So it makes the movie seem, I think, shallow and silly. Like a whole multiverse where red means go instead of green meaning go? What's the point of that? It wasn't even that clever or funny, especially if you don't explore the larger implications of that mentality. I mean, I know some people like the visuals of in this universe, everyone's paint, and here's the noir universe. But I mean, that was like a funny gag in the Spider-Verse movie, right? But even there, what really worked was, again, the people. That's what makes multiverses interesting, how the people are different. I don't think it's really the setting, quite frankly. I'd also argue that everything we dreamed of seeing, we thought this movie would make our Marvel dreams come true. Like John Krasinski as Reed Richards, Haley Atwell as a live-action Captain Carter, who blew many of us away in What If. But these appearances were actually not good. I think in large part, I just think John Krasinski, it turns out, is miscast as Reed Richards. Yikes. But I thought that they were not, they were half-assed, to be honest. I just didn't think they really went for it with these appearances. I'm going to make a whole separate video about all the cameos, breaking down all the cameos. But I will just say here, one thing that really upset me was that how do you have Professor X and his yellow hover chair, woo, and it never hovers? I can't believe that never occurred to anybody when they were making the movie. We even saw some previews where they'd planned for that, and it was too expensive? What's too expensive at this point for a Marvel movie when they make so much money and are a cornerstone of the Disney empire? The Illuminati scene was also just so oddly short that I don't even know if it was, I personally don't think it was worth doing at all. I really would have preferred to have taken that time and applied it to the rest of the story that so desperately needed it. So for the rest of this spoiler review, what I'm going to do is break the movie down by character. And since it's his movie, let's start with Doctor Strange. Good old Benny C. I think whether or not you like this movie overall boils down to what you think of the music fight between Doctor Strange and his evil variant in the third act. I thought it was ridiculous. The movie turned into a theme park / educational experience like Mickey's PhilharMagic, and it just totally took me out of the movie. But I see that some people really loved that and thought it was very clever. Maybe you have to have an appreciation for music. I mean, I didn't even think the music, it's not like, we have Danny Elfman. What can we do with Danny Elfman? I know, a music fight. But I don't even think I'm not like, boy, I gotta buy this soundtrack, right? And to those people who really loved the music fight, I'd love to know why, but I'd also wonder why you're giving it a pass that Doctor Strange has never used music spells before, and he has used a lot of different spells. And then also, it's not even like we were in a multiverse which was music-based, so that's how you had to fight there. They just, for some reason, had a lot of musical instruments around them and decided to have a music fight. I think if it had been explained to me, maybe I would have been able to appreciate it more. But it just came out of nowhere. I think that's a good way to describe a lot of this movie. Everything just came out of nowhere. And that now, with his third eye, the third eye that he's kept, Doctor Strange has a heavy metal theme. I don't like that. I don't think it fits with the character. And I think it's too close to what Taika Waititi is trying to do thematically with Thor: Love and Thunder. What, the whole MCU is going to become heavy metal now? And I got to tell you, I don't think there are a lot of heavy metal fans. So I just think that was a very odd choice. But I do think that Doctor Strange has some really great moments throughout the film. I loved when he jumped off the balcony at the wedding in his tuxedo, casually tossing away his drink back to the waiter, and the cloak of levitation comes in behind, and he swirls down. He had such a great move. It was so smooth. And then he floated down and changed into his uniform. It was great. And I thought the first fight, despite the wonky VFX, I thought that was very Doctor Strange. I loved him running around Lower Manhattan, because I know Lower Manhattan very well, being someone who lives in New York City, and that's where Doctor Strange, of course, is supposed to be located. So it felt very authentic to me, even though, of course, that was largely, I'm sure, shot on a soundstage somewhere. Look at the visual effects reel for No Way Home, which of course also takes place around the same area. That's all green screen. It's amazing. But I thought it was cool. I thought it worked. And he has all these trippy spells and he's fighting demons. It's very, very Lower Manhattan, very Soho. And that's a cool way to describe Doctor Strange. And I liked all of his interactions with Wong, the new Sorcerer Supreme. But why doesn't Wong get an upgrade in his costume? He seems exactly the same. I guess Wong is a humble kind of dude. And I just would have. I think Wong deserves a little bit of a power up and a little bit of a makeover if he's going to be the Sorcerer Supreme, because it doesn't really register until someone brings it up, quite frankly. And then there's Defender Strange. Oh, I liked Defender Strange a lot, and there are huge missed opportunities here, which I'm going to now explain to you. So Defender Strange. His decision. Well, he tries to take America Chavez's powers to kill her. As he says, her sacrifice will save the greater good. He, of course, is killed before he can do it. That's what happens. You open up the door to killing people. It might be you, buddy. But I think it highlights a major character flaw in all the Doctor Stranges, and that's his extreme emotional detachment. I think it affects him as a hero, and I think that might be one of the reasons he messed up so badly in No Way Home. And I think it also affects his personal life with Christine. Now, that's something I would have loved to have seen this movie explore, and to contrast it perhaps with Wanda, who could be depicted as loving too much, that she refuses to let her children go. Doctor Strange is too quick to let people go, and Wanda won't let them go. That could have been really interesting, but of course you can't do that with this Wanda, because she's just too evil. How can she be a character that's all about love when she kills so many people? I don't know how you can forgive this Wanda now, because she so viciously killed so many people in this movie. She snapped Xavier's neck, and I don't think that our Wanda, the Wanda from WandaVision, would ever do that. I mean, she didn't even kill Agatha, who killed Sparky. It just didn't make any sense to me. And I know a lot of you will be like, the Darkhold, the Darkhold, the Darkhold. We'll talk about that in a moment. When we talk about Scarlet Witch. But I also loved, we're talking about Doctor Strange right now. And I loved him dreamwalking back to his own multiverse via the corpse of Defender Strange. That I thought was really clever. And he said, who says anything about the other version of me being alive? That was great. And I loved when Wanda called him a hypocrite for doing it, because he was. Because in this movie, there's really very little difference between the two of them and their arrogance to do whatever it takes with their powers to get what they want, what they think is right. I think that, and again, missed opportunity to explore that. Wong's reaction, I don't even want to know. Using the demons who were first tormenting him to power up, those are all incredible moments, and I'm very upset with the ad campaign for giving that away in advance, especially because the scene never went far enough. You would think that would be all a build-up to this amazing fight between Doctor Strange and and this crazy Darkhold Wanda. And that never materialized, which was frustrating. We'll talk about America Chavez versus Wanda in her section, and America Chavez's section. But I think also the whole zombie Strange thing was undercut by him giving Chavez that hokey pep talk in the end, in the third act, which my audience laughed at. I mean, that's very Raimi humor, I guess. And I was marveling at the VFX on his face. Like a huge chunk of his face was missing, his cheek, and he's talking. And I'm like, how'd they do that? That's pretty cool. But what he was saying, I mean, it just undermined the whole, which should be a big third act fight. I'm going to say it later, but I'll say it again here because it bears repeating. It reminds me a lot of the end of Wonder Woman 1984, which a lot of you had a huge problem with. And the fact that people don't have a problem with this, although the movie's just coming out. I know it's hard for people to believe this movie is as big a mess as it is. So let's see what the reaction is. But I don't think you can have problems with Wonder Woman 1984 and not have problems with this movie as well. For many, I think, of the same reasons. All right, I also think the idea that Stephen and Christine never work out in any multiverse is very touching, especially after that What If episode. But it wasn't handled nearly as well here, not helped by the fact that we didn't really see any of that. We just had to hear about it, where it's like, do we ever work out? No, we don't. Why couldn't I see that? I mean, we didn't need the Illuminati. Why don't we just see some Christines and some Stranges? That would really, I think, gotten the point home. And also, Benedict Cumberbatch and Rachel McAdams have no chemistry whatsoever. So that doesn't help either. I don't think anyone's rooting for them. No one's like, oh, too bad that didn't work out. We're like, thank God, can we now move on? All right, Scarlet Witch. I love Elizabeth Olsen in this role, and I still believe she's the first female MCU character to be as popular as Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark and Chris Evans' Captain America. Unfortunately, some people feel threatened by that, and it's also gotten her detractors, but who cares? She's fantastic, and I love her. And it's very jarring that as soon as we see her, she's not only totally gone mentally, she's totally gone over to the Darkhold side. But we know she's no longer even at the cabin where we left her at the end of WandaVision, and that wasn't Matt Wondagore that she was at the foot of. I mean, what a missed opportunity that was. I thought that was so weird. To see a character that I got to know so well and relate to, I think many of us in WandaVision, be turned into a one-dimensional hysterical woman was really sad. And being hysterical, by the way, has long been something that society has used to undercut and punish women. You know, that's where the whole term hysterical comes from. And that's a lot what women were accused of during the real life Salem witch trials. You didn't like a strong woman, you accused her of being a witch and you got rid of her. If she drowns, oh, oops, she wasn't a witch. And if she lives, somehow miraculously, then we'll kill her because she's a witch. I mean, it was, you couldn't win. And it was designed to be that way. So to see this done in 2022, is sad and disturbing, especially with some of the things that are happening in real life right now. I think I felt the worst for Wanda when she was chasing after Strange, America, and Christine in the tunnels, limping along, desperate, scared, seeming lost. I just wanted to give her a hug, and I felt really bad about what had been done to the character. I was like, wow. I was wondering the whole time, as I've said before, where is Vision? Now, some of you had a counter-argument to that when I brought that up in my non-spoiler review. And you said, Grace, she made peace with his death in WandaVision, so that's why she's not thinking about him. But I don't believe that's true at all. Their final line together, which was amazing, where Vision said, we've said goodbye before, so it stands to reason we'll say hello again. I mean, that means she was okay with his death because she fully expects to see him again. And we fully expect to see him again. I mean, there's a white version of him running around as we speak. So not to have any Vision in not only this movie, but in any of the multiverses that we visit, that just doesn't make any sense. Especially because, again, WandaVision totally set up, intentionally so, his return. Vision is Scarlet Witch's most important emotional connection. I would think, even if she didn't, that Strange or Wong would have been like, hey, why don't we go find Vision or a variant Vision in one of these other multiverses to help us break through to Wanda in her madness. I was thinking it. It was like, I guess they don't even know Wanda. They don't even know Wanda. How did they not know that? That's weird. Now, I know the Darkhold corrupts, right? But I think that's lazy writing to be like, oh, she read the Darkhold, so that's why she's nuts. Because Agatha still had her senses about her, right? What a ticket out of jail for Agatha this movie is. We'll talk about that in a separate video. But the version of Doctor Strange that we see here, who read the Darkhold and was killed by the Illuminati on the Titan moon, he still was okay. I mean, he seemed like he was like, yeah, you should kill me, which I guess is reminiscent of what happens to Wanda at the end of this movie. But I would like to have seen that explained, or at least highlighted, right? Because I only thought of it now. And I also believe the final Doctor Strange variant was supposed to have read the Darkhold, because that's why he had a third eye, and that's why our Doctor Strange develops a third eye, because he used the Darkhold, but neither of their fingers are black. So, like, how long do you have to read this thing for that to happen? I mean, I would think your fingers would turn black before you developed a third eye. I would think. So anyway, to me, it just felt like Michael Waldron was focused less on WandaVision and more on how Scarlet Witch has been portrayed in the comics, which I think we all agree was not cool, was, misogynistic in the original story. And I think it would have really helped this movie, if they wanted to be faithful to that original story in the comics, to make the Wanda here the villain from a different multiverse. I mean, your solution is right there. Just have it be a different Wanda. And then our Wanda comes in and helps save the day. That would have, I think, made everything just fine. I think another thing that would have made everything just fine would be that if Wanda had created mutants in a reverse nod to the comic book where she got rid of almost all mutants. I think people would have forgotten all the problems. They'd be like, who cares, we got mutants? And I think because of that, her madness the character assassination seems pointless, even more pointless. So it's not only frustrating, but there was no reason to do it. We also didn't even get her kids back and age them up so we could be on our way to Wiccan and Speed. I mean, how long is that going to take now that this is the way this movie ended? I mean, again, if you're somebody who likes the MCU because of how everything is connected, you're like, what was the point of this movie? I really liked Wundagore, though. I thought those were some cool things, even though, again, it should have been in the mountain at the end of WandaVision. And I also like some of the things they did with her powers. And I'm going to make a whole Wanda video, as I said, tomorrow to discuss that. But don't worry, I don't think she's dead. I think they want you to think she's dead, and I think she intended to kill herself. And I really hate that that's the decision that she made, especially after the empowering end of WandaVision. That was, I think, night and day. Really unfortunate. All right, America Chavez. Not only a total waste of screen time, the screen time could have been used much better. Although, as I said, I thought her powers were visually very cool. I liked the shattered glass, the way that looked, and the way the portals would open up with stars within stars. But also a total dilution of a character, another character assassination. And it's not lost on me that it's all the female characters, Michael Waldron and Sam Raimi. All right, I've never been quite sure why a character, even in the comics, who comes from a multiverse where there's no United States, would be named America and wear a star-spangled outfit. And this movie didn't try to even explain it either. I was like, still doesn't make sense. To me, though, what has always made America Chavez stand out in the comics is her edginess and her authentic representation of urban Latino culture. America Chavez should look like she walked out of In the Heights. So to see her get Disney channeled is, again, a waste. And I think, really hurts what makes the character connect with the fans that it has. Some of you are saying, oh, America Chavez doesn't have any fans. She has fans. She definitely has fans. They wouldn't keep bringing her back if she didn't have fans. You might not be a fan, but there's a fan base there. America Chavez and Wanda actually have very similar problems in this movie. She lost her mothers, although absolutely nothing done with that. Again, horrible representation of the LGBT community. America Chavez, by the way, is a lesbian in the comics, but here, you'd never know that, and it would just seem that she's wearing that pride pin for her mothers. But why? Is there a pride flag? That multiverse, even though it was so different in every other way, has pride flags? You would think based on the utopia that it was, that they wouldn't need that because everything was accepted and great. So that also didn't make any sense. But anyway, so America Chavez lost her mothers and Wanda lost her twins. So you would think there'd be some kind of parallel and there'd be some sympathy for the two of them to connect. But again, nothing. So the movie just continues to seem very shallow. But I would forgive the shallowness, and I think a lot of people would, if there was action to make up for it. But alas, there is not. The Russo brothers, we're all starting to really miss the Russo brothers. They really know how to do action scenes. I've told you many times Steven Soderbergh's story about seeing someone at an airport, fast forward, in a Russo brothers movie from action scene to action scene. Because the action scenes are so good. They're iconic. And here, every time it seemed like we were going to get a big iconic action scene, we didn't. It was always a fake out. The Kamer Taj buildup, they were like, Strange was like, you'll never get through our force field, Wanda. And I was like, oh yeah, she is. I saw her in Avengers Endgame. It's just going to be a massive red energy. But instead she just went ping with like a single beam of red energy. And I was like, what, Wanda? Why are you going easy on these guys? Especially after you just said you weren't going to go easy on them. I did like the mind control, which they brought back from Age of Ultron, where, she would come from behind. And I thought that was cool. I thought that was done really well. But again, I never saw her get to the level that, I didn't see Wanda become more powerful than I've ever seen her before. I liked the Kamer Taj trap. That was pretty cool. She stepped on the trigger and there were all these cool swirly things and shards of glass. Although, why did that look like the prison from What If it wasn't the same type of prison? So that was confusing. I liked that she went through the reflections. That was kind of cool. Very Raimi. And she came through all disjointed, but yet when she went through the other reflections, she wasn't disjointed. I was like, what? I mean, in comic book fights, you have to have rules to everyone's powers so that the viewer can help think it through and be like, great use of the powers. But here it seems like Wanda can just do not just anything, but whatever they think of. And I think that's less fun to watch and it's harder to play with, quite frankly. Then the Illuminati, again, we'll talk about that in a separate video, but these were such short fights. They were over before they even began. And I think the Russo brothers would have done this justice. They should have all been Russo brother level fights. Incredible to me, huge missed opportunity. And then the end fight, where America Chavez says, I can't beat you, so I'm just gonna give you what you want. And she opens up the portal, opens up a portal to Wanda's children. I don't know why she kept bothering that one poor multiverse family. She said her children were in every multiverse. Go find another family. This family went through enough rounds. But there was no real fight. There was no third act big fight. The children were scared of her, and the other version of Wanda said, don't worry, they'll be loved, even if you won't have them. And then Wanda cried, which was sad, and so I really had a problem with it. But again, it was almost identical to the final revelations in Wonder Woman 1984, where again, that's how Wonder Woman won the day. Through emotion and holding up a mirror to the villain. And, just like, Maxwell Lord went to his son. Same thing. So to criticize that lack of action and yet not have a problem here, I mean, it's just more unfairness in the way these franchises are judged. So that's my spoiler review of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, a movie that's surprisingly maddening, not the way we expected. I think there's a good movie in here, as you can see. If they had just taken out America Chavez and the Illuminati and tried to build better on what's come before and given the movie another 30 to 40 minutes, I think they could have really had something here. And it's a shame. It's just, I think people will see this movie. I don't think it's going to really be something that sticks with people, and then I think we're just going to move on. And it's a shame, because there were some great elements in here that should have gotten a better platform, so they would have been lasting moments in the MCU instead of just, remember that crazy time? That was crazy. All right, let's go to the next adventure. All right, so what did you think? Share your thoughts down below. And again, as I told you, lots more Multiverse of Madness spoiler coverage coming, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a video. Thanks so much, and again, share your comments down below, and you can check out some more videos right now.